Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. In War of the Visions Global, let's talk about the news video that they released for the end of June. And this was jam-packed with big news. First, let's look at fan vote Zazan. He will be released beginning of July. In a previous video, I talked about how, since Dwayne was already released in Global, they needed to release somebody else at the beginning of July. And I put out Zazan out there, and here he is. I'm not surprised that he was released earlier than 1.5 anniversary. When I saw how quickly they got the artwork up for him, then that kind of made me think that he was not on any kind of strict timeline. And then, because he has come so early, that kind of reinforces my thought that Dress Up Gurasada was always slated to be released at 1.5 anniversary. And JP players might not be happy to hear this, but I kind of almost feel like that they were cheated out of their fan vote unit. Because here's how it went. They had the fan vote in JP. The regular Gurasada was not released yet. So people in their dumb logic, they thought that they would speed up the release of regular Gurasada by voting for her. And then when the developers saw this, and then they knew that they had regular Gurasada and then also Dress Up Gurasada on the schedule, they're like, oh crap, what do we do? Do we make like a third Gurasada? They decided to go against that, I guess, and just keep, stalling and making excuses, and then releasing Dress Up Gurasada when she was originally released. That's my theory for what happened, and that's why it took so long, a full year, after the vote for her to get released. And so if you think about it, JP did not get a special unit for their fan vote. They just got like kind of a special costume and limit break for a unit that was already going to come out. That's the way I look at it. But Zazan, I think his vote really did take the developers by surprise, and so he turned out to be a really good choice. We also saw votes for like Mont, who of course was going to get another version, and then like Vineta, who got another version later anyway, and then Leela, who also got a version later. But thinking about it, Zazan was probably the least likely to get a second version, so this is very cool. This is pulling something out of thin air here. I didn't see it in these slides, but the impression that I'm getting is that he is cost 100. And the way that I see the unit costs playing out in JP is that cost 100 units are impactful on the meta. Cost 90 units are solid, but they don't really affect the meta too much. And then cost 80 units are kind of niche characters. I don't know if we're ever going to see another cost 80 UR unit released ever again because of the focus on 90 and 100. But I will say that of all of the cost 80 units released since this new change, Muraga might be the strongest of all of them. He's really good. And he will be a very interesting partner with Zazan here. I'm going to be tempted to pull for him in my global account, but he does not fit in my challenge guidelines, so I'm going to skip him. Very sad. And then here, I guess I can lay out my guesses for 1.5 anniversary for global. I feel like that they are going to move up the release of Jaden to coincide with 1.5 anniversary. I do not anticipate Dress Up Gurasada coming to global soon. She might come someday, but it might be like from a year from now. But yeah, I would not expect her for 1.5 anniversary. Okay, next we got a bunch of EX Awakenings. First is Fravia. This is very cool. I'm glad that she's getting a second chance, or like maybe people will take like a second look at her. Because when she was first released, she was very misunderstood, and a lot of people used her kind of not in the way that she was supposed to be used. And then also, I think I have this right, there was not abilities on-off when she was first released. So that should really help with her AI this time around. But I'm looking at this here. It looks like she's getting some kind of like more physical defensive stuff, and we also see the slash resistance here. On the one hand, she doesn't need it because she is a magic tank. But on the other hand, you think about why she's getting this. I think it's so that she can take on the Helena-Dwayne combo that will be coming together. That also might explain why the slash resistance on that Mont Rain card that we got earlier. And then we'll talk about Dwayne in a second, but they stuck to their guns on the scheduling of his release, or for the timing of the EX jobs. So we'll see how that plays out in Global. In JP, it was not a fun time for a couple months, because Helena Dwayne was just everywhere, and very hard to beat if it wasn't a mirror match. But we'll see what people like Rain and then Fravia here can do to break that. One thing that I wanted to point out, I was going to bring this up when Engelbert got his EX jobs, but since we're seeing the change in Fravia here, I guess I'll talk about it here. But the hate generation that you get from a TP skill will not stack with hate generated with like Attract Blade or Attract Spell. They did some tests with Engelbert and JP. It might be different in Global, so that will require some tests as well. But what was happening in JP, at least, with Engelbert, is that the hate generated from the Attract Blade would not be added to Engelbert until the hate ran out from that Guts TP skill. And so what it ended up being was just kind of a ranged small AoE attack that cost a ton of AP. And so a lot of people just turned off Attract Blade on Engelbert and just relied on his Guts hate up skill. You could do the same with Fravia here, but it's going to be one of her best damaging attacks, and then also there's going to be additional buffs like more defense from that. So it's not going to be as much of a deal for Fravia, but something to keep in mind. So don't be surprised if the hate does not stack with both her TP skill and her attract spell. Okay, next we got the return of Dwayne. I don't think I need to say too much here. Global players have a very good idea of how he works, how good he is, and he's just going to be better. If you want a solid team, you can put Helena and Dwayne together, and then you can use whatever bonus unit is for that week, and then do very well in Arena. Give it a try. Alright, next we got Kiton's EX job, and she is definitely the sleeper here. But if you've been watching my high-level PvP videos from JP the last few months, you've seen her just wreak havoc on everybody. So if you got the stuff ready, if you can make a good Drain Force build for her, maybe use like Odin, the Vision card, and the Esper, and then you got some evade stuff, especially the Luck card, then you can get really good use out of Kiton, surprise some people, I think. And don't worry about putting her on an all-Earth team or a Earth-heavy team. She can definitely work just as a kind of a solo Earth character. Okay, next we got the new Vision card. This kind of takes on new significance with the news here in Global. But previously they released the Kamiro card, and that was the Earth defense card. This one here is the Earth offense card, and I love both of the cards for my Muraga. They're also excellent for MR Mont. But now with the release of Zazan in Global, these are very interesting now. Might be a must. When this was released in JP, people were wondering, like, you know, why am I going to use this? Who am I going to use this on? Because they only had really MR Mont and then Kiton at this time. But one way that you could use this is to use this for the Earth selection quests. I think looking back, looking at all of the 5 that have been released, Earth is the most challenging, and so if you can do anything to give you a leg up, that would be helpful, I think. It's also probably the one most worth doing, because again, Muraga is awesome. Okay, last thing I'll talk about from the Global Update video is this community stream. This looks like fun. I have not been contacted by Justin yet, but maybe it's too early. But if they want to invite other people, that is totally fine. We can use some new blood in there. If I'm not invited, I will of course be watching, and I will perhaps be in the chat room. I'll try to keep quiet there. Okay, and then I'll show you this one slide from the live stream from the JP side the other day. But they will be releasing Oberon the 1st of July. He will be cost 100, he will be an Earth unit, and a Pierce attacker. That's about all I have to say about him there. But I did want to talk about what Oberon and also some of the other recently released units kind of means for the kind of the broadening and the deepening of the overall meta of War of the Visions. how we might be entering the Wild West as far as PvP. Okay, that'll do it for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.